So I try to make this fun and entertaining. And so if anybody has any questions or comments throughout, please feel free to ask. Be more than happy to answer them, okay? So I have been doing this for about 25 years. I had an advertising agency for 10, and I learned exactly what you don't want to do. And so I'll get out of your way here so you can see the screen. But and part of this whole process, I actually, when I sold my company, I went to work for a company we reported to Wall Street. It was the worst 2 years of my entire life. But I learned a ton, and especially with what not to do. And so when I left Purgatory and came to start up Brand Iron, my whole premise was there's got to be a way where we can actually quantify results. And so that's what I want to talk about is how do we quantify marketing and branding results? And my premise is there's a brand champion at the helm that helps guide that and shape that future within a company. So that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. And so there's 7 secrets of becoming a brand champion. That's me. So the first, I'm going to just give you a highlight. It's all about results. You must champion your brand. You separate yourself from the herd. And you got to be best and win. You've got to make it fun and appealing. You also have to create great brand experiences. You have to spread the word and make it happen. And then you also have to evolve, grow, and harvest. Okay? So the definition of branding is a little bit different for me. We actually have instead of logos and websites, which is what most people think of, branding for me is how do you brand and position your company to achieve your desired goals and objectives. And so that's what I really care about. And so if it doesn't position you to achieve desired goals and objectives, why are you doing it? And then also, my other idea about this is brands don't happen they don't just evolve. They evolve because it's a brand champion at the helm that has a vision, has a mission. They have an understanding of how they want to revolutionize a business and industry, transportation or service or financial services. They have a dream and a desire to be the best in their space, and it happens because someone has a passion and a desire and a dream to be that. Also, the sins and secrets of branding, what I want to talk about that. I'll show you the secrets, and I'll show you one or the two of sins. If you got questions about that, depending on time, I may go over a few of those as well, too. Okay? So when we first take a look at it, what most people, I'm not going to go over there. I've been instructed. But I'll just point to you here is most people, when they talk about marketing and branding, is typically just in the marketing realm, what the message you send to the external world. My contention is branding and positioning is not only about the marketing, but it's also about your sales and your operation and delivering what we call a holistic brand experience. And so how do you pull all these elements together to create not only a great experience, but produce tangible results and a quantifiable ROI? Okay, and so most everybody else I compete against in the branding and marketing world is like what most people think the myths are. It's about logos and websites, really cool Super Bowl commercials and everything else, but that's not reality. Business owners, they don't care about that crap, if you will. They care about, give me a return on my investment. Show me that something works, and if something works, I'll buy into what you have. Okay? So secret number 1, it's all about results. And since I've been doing this for a while, when I actually had my advertising agency, by the end of that first 10 years that I had that, I hated it because we couldn't quantify results. We'd have clients spend these huge $100,000 or several $100,000 budgets with us, and we couldn't quantify results. And so when I was, sold my company and I wanted to design a different firm and do something different, I said, we're going to be a branding firm, and we're actually going to figure out a way to quantify results, because that's what business and Wall Street and everybody else, business owners like yourselves, that's what you really care about. So my contention is just that. Branding is all about results. And let me give you an example. First, let me give you a quote. The results you achieve will be in direct proportion to the effort you apply. And I believe this is so true. I get asked all the time, what's the silver bullet? What's the easy button to marketing or branding? And there is no easy button, but it's all about direct proportion to the results and effort you put into it is what you're going to get back in return. And I see it all the time. So the first example is a guy named Dave. Dave is a real client of mine. This is not Dave's real picture, but Dave is a real was a real client of mine. And we started working with Dave when he was 68 years old. He called us up, and originally he wanted a package design that he had a product going into Lowe's and Walmart. And he called up, and we met with him. We started talking about his bigger picture goals and objectives. And I started talking to Dave, and he goes, well, can I be honest with you about what my goals and objectives are? So what I really like to do is, I'm 68. I'd like to retire by the time I'm 70. Because that's my dream. That is my desire. I said, well, that is a completely different conversation than designing a package to put in one of your products that's going to go into Home Depot and Lowe's. But I'm so glad you asked the question, because that's the right question to ask, is how can we brand and position your company to make that become a reality? So we laid out a plan to brand and position this company to be a nuisance in a space that hopefully a bigger strategic player within a space would get really upset with him and buy his company. And so we worked on that plan. And within 20 months, that happened. A strategic player in a space acquired his company. But that's because what the bigger picture goals and objectives we were trying to get accomplished. And so whatever your goal and objective is, whether you want to get retired, whether you want to raise capital, whether you're trying to increase market share, whether you're trying to increase launching a new product or new service, if you're trying to get, excitement around a new technology, whatever it is, what are the goals and objectives, and how can you brand and position your company to achieve your corporate and personal family goals and objectives? And so we ask that question all the time. I ask that question. It's a question I love to ask. What are we really trying to get accomplished here? And so that's what I want you to think about yourselves, is what do you really want to try to get accomplished? Because that's what branding is about, is results. So what are your short-term and long-term goals for your business? This is a participation time, and I'll follow up with the repeating what they say. Anybody? Anybody?
Yeah, I'm just about to launch one. You want me to share?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Launching an on-demand media site.
So Jules is launching an on-demand media site.
Right, and it's a recurring revenue model.
Recurring revenue model.
Or broadcasting online.
So if I sound like a repeating, I am for the video.
So my short term is to get it populated with content with broadcasters that are paid.
Okay.
And my long term is to attract enough eyeballs to the site, grow it where I'm getting some bigger sponsors or advertisers, and hopefully attract the attention of some big conglomerate.
There you go.
This idea of microsites.
So you have very specific short-term and long-term goals and objectives.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Very similar to Dave. So I don't have a widget.
Yeah, that's okay. It doesn't matter whether you have a widget, you have a technology, you got an idea, or a service, right? It's what's your short-term, how do you get it launched, but then how do you get exposure so you could get noticed to get to where you want to be. Okay, fantastic. Anybody else? That's okay. So, secret number 2, you must champion your brand. All right? What I see, I would say 90% of the time in almost all companies, is that they want to do the work. They want to do the service. They want to be an attorney. They want to be an accountant. They want to do financial. They want to do media content. They want to do photography. They want to do transportation. And they want to be practitioners. And which is great, but I have to tell people that's great, but what you also have to take in consideration is probably one of your biggest goals and objectives should be that you're championing your brand. You have a vision of what that brand should look like. You have a great way to effectively communicate what that looks like. All right? You know what the value points are, 3, 4, 5 value points are. You know how to effectively communicate that in your elevator pitch. You have everybody within the company that works with you understands and knows what those value points are and how to effectively communicate those as well. You also you're in the marketplace. You are positioning yourself and your company as the expert within your particular space, and you want to be the go-to person. And so you are the person that has to champion the brand and help drive the company to achieve those bigger picture goals and objectives. And this is not a natural skill and ability that most CEOs and business leaders have, or to be honest with you, desire to have. But all businesses, they have someone at the helm, have someone in their executive leadership team that can and does do specifically this. Okay? Let me give you an example. Oh, here's a great quote. Muhammad Ali, champions aren't made in gyms. Champions are made for something they have deep inside of them, a desire, a dream, a vision. They have to have the last minute stamina. They have to have the skill and the will, but the will must be stronger than the skill. And that's exactly what brand champions have. They have a desire, a dream, a vision. They have a burning dream to win and be the best that they can be. And I see it with every single one, whether you're Dave, whether you're Muhammad Ali, every company has a brand champion who wants to win. You said something very, very similar to this. They have a fear of running out of money, right? Well, that's a very strong fear, right? Well, the same thing on the transverse side is that a brand champion wants and has a dream to win. They want to be the best that they could be. And they're driven by that success, okay? Let me give you an example. I was actually traveling a lot to and from Kansas City and met a bunch of the people at Sprint and came across a story, and I did some research. So I'm going to play a video clip for you, and we'll talk about it, okay?
If you could change the way wireless companies did things, what would you do? I'm Dan Hesse, the new CEO of Sprint. Here's our idea. Use your phone for all the great things it can do without worrying about the meter running. How's that for a wireless revolution? Pretty awesome, huh?
Okay, so what did you notice?
Short, precise.
Short and precise. What? Tell me more. Personal. Well, why is it personal? It's the CEO, but why is it personal though?
What you can do with it, really, how it benefits you.
That's correct, but Todd, tell me more. What else did you notice?
Feels like he's talking to you.
It does feel like he's talking to you, right? It's very intentional, up close, face shot, right? What else? What's his email address? Did you catch that? Dan@sprint.com, right? Pretty straightforward. And at the time, this was 2007 when he took the helm of Sprint, there was not, the life expectancy of Sprint was not very long. At least that's what everybody thought was going to happen because it was circling the drain. And so everybody thought at the time Sprint was going to go down the tubes. Dan Hesse was brought in to right the ship and save the company. And he took some big gambles. This was the first big gamble. What else did you notice about the offer?
It was a simple solution that everyone wants.
The simple everything plan, right? And at the time, all the cell phone companies were doing what to each and every one of us?
Every minute cost you something.
Data, texting, everything was costing you a fortune. What's that? They were gouging their customers. And so Dan Hesse took a different approach and said, you know what? We're going to take a different approach. Everybody else is going this way, overcharging, billing them by the minute, billing by data, billing them by the text, all this type of stuff. We're going to give them a simple everything plan, and it's going to be simple, and it's going to be $99.99 a month.
That's why I was sold.
That's why you were sold. There you go. And so he came in here and sold the plan. He sold the vision, and he had nothing to lose. It was a Hail Mary for the company. And guess what? It worked. And in fact, all the companies went to a billing model like Sprint. You know what's really funny now? You're going to start to see that it's going to go back the other way now. What's that? Yeah, but they were really the first innovators and really made a big deal, a big name of it. Cricket was a very minor player, but and that's what they did. And they had nothing to lose. And in fact, he said, it's more than anything, I need to sell this concept to the internal team because they think we have no chance in hell surviving it. Yeah.
They experimented with Boost first in the old Nextel infrastructure.
Well, they bought a bunch of the
And that worked very well.
yeah.
So then they rolled it out.
They did. They actually couldn't, they bought in a bunch of different companies along the way, but they cobbled it all together. But they had nothing to lose. And he took an innovative approach, put together a simple everything plan. He made it personable. He spoke to the camera himself. He put his Dan@sprint.com on there. And guess what? Guess how many more commercials he's done since then? A ton. And it's been, 7 years now he's held the position as CEO of Sprint, and he survived. And they've not only they avoided bankruptcy, but they've actually done really well and done great for themselves. So that's what a good example of a brand champion is, and what they do for themselves as well as the public. And so brand champion takes like 7 different attributes. Leadership, intentionality. I love intentionality. And what that means is I want to get to such and such. I want to retire by the time I'm 70. I want to make sure we don't go bankrupt. I want to raise X number of dollars in capital. I want to get acquired. I want to launch this product or service. But they're also realistic. They understand the challenges they face. They understand the challenges of their technology or their team. Yeah?
So it's not simply proportional to effort. It's realistic effort.
Great question. It is effort, but it's also being smart about where you apply your effort, right? And so you've got to be realistic about what the circumstances you're facing. And you've got to have a vision of where you want to be and where you're going to take the company. You also have to have a drive and the passion to help get you there. You also have, once you have a plan, and the simple everything plan, or you have planned with your team, you've got to have some faith in your team that they're going to be able to execute and deliver on this vision. And you've got to have evolution as well. And what I mean by that is once you roll out a plan or once you roll out a product or a service, you can't just let it sit there. You have to continue to evolve, and you have to continue to sharpen your skills and make your company better and better as you go along. Because once you achieve success, everybody else will start to notice what you're doing and will emulate you or copy you. And so you can't rest on your laurels. You have to evolve yourself. Okay? So here's a question I ask you. Are you committed to owning the brand and taking it to the next level? Yes. Tell me about that. You're committed. All right. How committed are you?
All in.
All in. That's a great way to put it. I love that. And that's what it takes. It takes you being all in, but you having that vision, you having the desire to have the dream, but also sharing that dream and that desire with everybody else within your company, as well as everybody else in the marketplace, so they see that passion. They see the desire. They see everything else. Okay? All right. Number 3, you got to separate, be the best, and win. Okay? You have to learn the rules of the game, and then you have to play better than anybody else, Albert Einstein said. And I think it's so true. You have to understand how to play the game, and you got to play better than anybody else. You'd be amazed how many times I work with a company. I said, we're going to take a look at competitors. I go, tell me about your competitors. And they go, they don't know. You're right. You're right. They don't even know who they are. They can't tell me all about them. I'm like shocked, and it happens all the time. I was in a brainstorm session this morning with a client, and I go, well, what are we competing against? I said, that's a great question.
Do they even know the clients?
Well, it's a startup, and he had no idea. And I said, what? You're spending money with us already to help define your brand. We better know what you're up against so we can help you define this. And so you better know what you're up against first and foremost. But you'll be amazed, probably wouldn't, but I'm amazed, continually amazed, how many companies don't understand what their competition looks like and how to separate themselves and be the best to win. It's amazing to me, but it happens all the time. So let me give you an example. This is a little credit card company that used to be, well, I'll play the clip and then we'll talk about it. How's that sound?
Some people put everything into their work. Their name on the door, and their heart into their community. Small Business Saturday is a day to show our support, a day to shop at stores owned by our friends and neighbors, and do our part for the businesses that do so much for us. On November 24th, let's get out and shop small.
So did anybody know about this campaign? What's that? You should remember it. They spent a bunch of money to get you to remember it. Do you know how anybody started, American Express started as a credit card company? Anybody?
How it started?
Well, what they started to go to market as? Wrong.
Restaurants.
No. They used to try to compete originally as a premier consumer card. And guess what they realized before they realized that they were going to go after corporate customers. And who are their customers? Business, not just big companies, but business owners just like me and you now. Absolutely. And so guess what they did a couple years back? They developed a campaign called Small Business Saturday. They put together a little promotional, right? Because who they support? Their customers, which are small businesses. So they were trying to put together a program to support their clients, right? And they did a great job. You know, you have a pretty good successful campaign when you, in the first year, you get more than more than 1 million likes on Facebook. You got President Obama tweeting on your behalf and saying, make sure you shop small this Saturday. That's a pretty damn good campaign when you got the president tweeting on your behalf, right? And so that's what American Express did. They figured out how they can separate themselves from all the other bigger credit card companies. They've carved out a niche for themselves in the small business owner and the corporate travel people. How many of you collect points on American Express? Yeah, a lot of you do. I do too. I have a ton of points and I use them all the time. I'll almost go on almost all my vacations using points because that's how they keep you stuck and being a loyal customer with them.
That's the little carrot.
That is the carrot. Exactly. That is not a little carrot. That's a big carrot, right? So, but that's what they do. They have a great customer experience. And then, in fact, not too long ago, I got a call and said, hey, Mr. Doyle, are you in New York today? And I was like, no. Go, well, you just bought $60,000 worth of computers at the Apple Store in downtown Manhattan. And just want to make sure that's you or not. And I was like, no, that clearly isn't me. And they go, we didn't think so because you didn't book your travel with your card. And so we didn't think so because we hadn't bought any tickets. But just want to clarify it. And I go, no, it's not me. I haven't traveled. I'm in Denver. And they said, okay. What we'll do is we're going to go ahead and cancel that card. Can you cut it up? And can we Federal Express out a card for you today? And you'll get it in the morning. Can we set up a conference call with you tomorrow, late morning, after you get your card to help activate your card for you? And can we also make sure that we're going to, at the same time, set up a time with you later on in the month, after you get your statement, to make sure none of those charges appear on your card? So we'd like to schedule a couple conference calls with you. It's customer service, right? I don't know how many other banks or how many other credit card companies say, can I schedule a conference call with you? Can I call you up at your convenience to take care of you? It doesn't happen with any other credit card company. And so that's how they make a name for themselves, and that's how they take care of their customers, and that's how they keep us loyal as customers, because they do a great job taking care of us. And they figured out that niche. Guess who's one of the most profitable credit card companies per capita in the marketplace? American Express. They charge the highest. You're right. And we pay a premium to be their customers because they provide a great service. And when people talk to me about they want to be separate, they want to be different, does it have to be cheap? No. In fact, I don't really work with very many customers that want to play the price game, because you don't have to be cheap to be the best at what you do. In fact, a lot of times you can charge a premium if you're providing a premium service or a premium product. That's our head of security there, talking too long at one point.
Watching out for you.
Yeah, she is watching. Yep. Okay.
Opposite of that story you just told.
But here's the other thing I want you to do is, this is just, we call it a magic quadrant. You'll see it from Forrester or Gartner or a bunch of these other research firms. But where is the competitors in the marketplace? And where do you want to be in the marketplace? And do you know where you're positioned at and where you want to be? And we work with customers and clients all the time that are either, they're picking out a spot because they're launching a new product or service, or they're in a particular quadrant or a particular space in the marketplace, and they want to move their position or reposition themselves to a new space. But you have to understand first and foremost what your competitors are doing, and then what you want to be and how you're going to do it different and better than the competition. But you need to understand the lay of the land. You have to take a look, we call it scout the landscape, see what's really out there, what you're competing against, and how you're going to be different, and how you're going to position yourself, and then what's that going to be, and how you're going to be better. Okay? And service providers are horrible at this. Let me just be straightforward. Attorneys, accountants, CPAs, financial guys, right? They're horrible. Not to pick you on in particular, but it's true. You know why? Because they want to hang their sign and say, I want to do great work and I want to get a referral when people talk about what a great job I am. And they don't like the market. They don't like to sell. They just want to provide the service. But you nowadays, I don't care what you do, you have to understand the marketplace and you have to understand how you're going to be better than your competition. And if you're a service provider, it's even more challenging. But nowadays, you have to do it just as much or more than anybody else does. You see attorneys now advertising all the time. You see accounting firms on cable channels advertise all the time, especially the big four. And you see it.
They have to.
They have to because it's super. We have to too. So what space do you want to own? All right. Do you own your own space? And if not, what are you going to do to change that? Because you have to own your space. I don't care what space you're in. I don't care what service or business you're in. You have to own a space. You have to own a niche. Okay, you just can't be one of anybody else. You have to figure out what your experience is going to do to be better than anybody else that you compete against. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Yeah. The question is, so the secret's to find a niche, and part of that is to understand what the competition looks like, right? And then what you have to do is you also have to not only understand the space, you have to figure out, let me go back a slide. You have to figure out the space, you've got to figure out where all the competition lies, and then you have to figure out where you're going to lie in the competitive landscape. This just happens to be one on price and performance because it's pretty easy and most people understand it. But you're right, you have to understand the competitive landscape, and you have to understand how you're going to be different than anybody else in that space.
Value always wins the market in the long term. You can lie to some of the people some of the time, but not all the people.
Value is the key word, which doesn't equate to being cheap, right? If you provide a great value, I don't care what you do. If it's perceived as great value, right? And perception and reality could be two different things.
That's why I said in the long term.
Right. That's right. And so value, it's not about price, and value is something completely different. I love value-based branding. How do you put together value points that really communicate what your product and service is better?
Cadillac versus Chevy.
Cadillac versus Chevy. Cadillac for a long time, though, had a bad image and a bad brand, right? Until they changed and modified. Did I answer your question? I love complex business challenges. I don't care what you do. I love helping companies figure out where they're going to be. They take a look at the competition. We take a look at their 6, 10 different competitors. Take a look at what their value points are. How do they describe themselves? How do they describe their experience of working with their target markets? And then figuring out, what do you do? What's your intellectual property? What's your intellectual capital? And how can you provide a better experience? What kind of experience do you want to have? And then you kind of map it out and make it so. And you have to package it and make it so. So I love that, and I don't think we all have to answer this question: is how are we going to separate ourselves? How are we going to pick a position? How are we going to own that space? And how are we going to be able to effectively communicate it to our target customers? And how are we going to be able to win and own that space? We all have to answer that question to be successful. It's imperative. We have to answer that question. So the question is, it's harder when you're a startup, right? To pick out a niche. I'll disagree with you. And I'll tell you why I'm going to disagree with you. Because in your startup, you have no reputation that you have to overcome. And most of the businesses have been around, and I work with a lot of businesses that have been around a long time. You know, some of them over 100 years. In fact, we have a law firm we just did a new brand for. They've been around 120 years. You talk about some legacy, you talk about some baggage they have. We have to overcome some of those negative perceptions. Startups don't have those same baggage. They don't have the same perceptions. And so we have the ability and the opportunity to create a brand new brand, a brand new niche that's going to resonate with a particular ideal target market that we want to serve and work with. And so I think startups is perfect. It's a great opportunity to find a great experience and position yourself as totally different and better than the competition.
So what
It is the challenge. The challenge is exactly that. How do you define the niche? Yeah, small business all the time, they want to be everything to all people, right? They do, and they want to use a shotgun and go after them. And you can't be all things to all people. You have to be, you have to have a target. You have to aim with a rifle instead of a shotgun. And the more successful you are at picking out that niche and shooting them with a rifle compared to a shotgun, you're going to be way more successful. Okay? That answer your question?
I'm just making a comment.
Okay, great. All right. And so if you don't own your own space, you've got to be able to answer the question, how are you going to own your own space? What space do you want to be in? And how are you going to craft a message and position yourself in a particular niche to own that niche? Okay? Great question. So the question was, when you're talking about owning a space, right? How are you going to own it? And so a great example, let's take for ourselves. Our tagline is very intentional, forging brands and driving revenue.
Say that again.
Forging brands and driving revenue. Okay? I now hear that, oh, you're the revenue guys. I am happy to be known as the guys driving revenue associated with branding. I want to be that. And so if we can quantify and paint that impression in people's minds when they think about or hear about companies in your particular space, impression that you want them to have when they think about you, that's our job. Our job is to paint the impression we want them to have. And for myself, I want to be the revenue guy. When it comes to branding, I want to be that ROI guy. I want to be the revenue guy. I want to be the results guy. And whatever you want to be, we have to figure out what that message is, what the space is, what the message is, how we're going to make it clear and concise, and then how we're going to effectively communicate that. And burn that impression into people's minds so when they think about those are the guys that own that particular space, they think of you. Okay? All right, make it fun and appealing. I'm going to give you some examples here, and I don't care what kind of business we're in, we all have to be fun and appealing. Even if we do financial planning, or we're an attorney, or we're a CPA, or we're the DaVinci Institute, or we're a photographer, it has to be fun, appealing, and engaging, or else we're going to lose them.
That's number 4.
That is number 4. I love this quote by Sophia Loren. Sex appeal is 50% of what you've got and 50% of what people think you've got. And at companies, it is the same exact thing. It is our job to paint a perception of what we got, or what, but more importantly, what people think we've got. And I have to work with companies all the time where they go, but our service isn't there yet.
Don't worry about it.
And I go, okay, tell me what you desire your service to be. And when you put together and desire that service, we're going to put together a process and a plan to train everybody to deliver that great service. And we're going to make sure that promise, that value promise that we're putting together is going to become a reality. Okay? But we're going to paint the picture that we're already there today. So we're going to paint that picture, and we're going to figure out how to deliver and make sure that becomes a reality, so that the brand becomes real and true. Okay? All right. Let me play a commercial for you.
The police often question him just because they find him interesting. His beard alone has experienced more than a lesser man's entire body. His blood smells like cologne. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I prefer Dos Equis. Stay thirsty, my friends.
So this is a little campaign for Dos Equis. And how many of you really heard of it, really knew, or how, for that fact, how many in America really knew and understand what Dos Equis was at the beginning that this campaign came out? Very few people. I mean, let's be honest with you, they were a small, tiny niche import. But what did you notice here? You know what? Why? It's an appeal to men. Why is it an appeal to men?
Because the images, you know, like open a bear. Or maybe that's women too.
Yes.
It could be women too, actually, I think. But
Guess who their ideal target market, so the question was, that appeals to men. Does it appeal to men? Guess who their target market was? No. Guess who their target market was? Middle-aged white guys that live boring lives that have money to spend. Dead serious. Middle-aged white guys who live boring lives but have money to spend. Because why? They want to be the most interesting man in the world because they are not. And so they associate that if I don't buy this product, I drink this product, I will be the most interesting man in the world. Guys like us go out there and flock to buy Dos Equis because we want to be that guy. Yes?
So if Colorado right now has somewhere between 250 and 300 microbreweries, and to brand each of them, are there enough niches for each of these?
So the question is that Colorado has between 250 to 300, 350 microbreweries in the state, and are there enough niches for them all?
Yeah.
That's a great question. I would say yes, there probably is. Will they all make it? You know they're all not going to make it. But if they have niches, and if they all go after the same Colorado market, I would say no way. But a lot of them ship their product to other parts of the country. And if that's the case, there's plenty enough people in the country, for sure. But if they're all going after the same demographic, same market, it's going to be a tough, bloody battle, right? Yes?
But as a group, microbreweries are taking a bite on the brand name beer.
So the comment is that microbreweries are taking a bite out of the bigger labels. They absolutely are, just like Dos Equis is, right?
You can succeed in your niche and fail as a business if you didn't get a big enough niche.
Well, you're right. So the comment is that you can succeed at your niche, but if you didn't get a big enough, correct? Big enough piece of the pie, you still could fail. You're absolutely right. You have to pick out a big enough niche. That's it right there, right? And so for Dos Equis, guess what the results were? Anybody know how the results were on this one? They're still, not only are they still around, he is still around. He has single-handedly, when imports were down by 11%, they were up by 17%, so they had a 28% delta on success over everybody else in the category. Who became the #1 leading social media platform out there? Of all beers, imagine this, of all beer companies, who became the #1 brand on social media? This guy, Dos Equis, and the world's most interesting man, because everybody wanted to be him. And you know what's really interesting about this campaign too? Is that he himself, everybody loves him. Old, young, male, female, everybody found him to be interesting. All demographics love this guy. You talk about picking out a niche and being able to effectively communicate and make something fun and appealing. This is a great campaign and a great start. But I don't care if it's about beer. I don't care what we do. We have to figure out ourselves how we can make what we do fun and appealing. Okay?
It wouldn't have worked if you didn't have a beard.
Yeah, the comment was it wouldn't work if you didn't have a beard. Yeah, exactly. So here's some of the things I want you to take away with you. Is know what appeals to your target customers, right? Use multiple and creative mediums. Develop a sales-driven marketing campaign and make it fun and memorable. Okay? I know it sounds simple, and it is, but you need to understand who you're trying to appeal to and what's going to appeal to them. In most businesses, it's not about being interesting. It's what is it about? Saving time, saving money, making money, being more efficient, being better utilized, getting them something faster, something better, providing a better experience. And I think any one of those things we all can relate to in some way, shape, or form. We have to figure out how we're going to make what we do appealing. All right? So here's your question. How can you craft your message to make it memorable and appealing to your target customers? I don't care what you do, this is what you have to do. You have to figure out whatever you do, how you're going to craft a message and make it appealing to your ideal target customers. Okay? Anybody feel like they have this nailed? So the question is the message, It has to be more than words, right? Yeah. It has to be able to touch people personally. The trick here is, how do you put together a message that's fun and appealing and compels them to take action? And it's not, it could be words, right? Did 3 simple words just do it? Anybody know those 3 simple words? Everybody knows what those 3 simple words are, right? So it can be words if you have 3, but there's visual around that we've come to know and identify with, right? And so what are our 3 simple words? What is our message or visual representation? I don't care what we do, we have to figure out how we could put together 3 simple words or a commercial or some visuals to bring it together to appeal to our target customers. Question?
Is money in motion.
Money in motion.
In motion.
Money in motion. Okay. What's that mean?
As a financial advisor, you're looking for people that are moving money for one reason or another.
Okay.
They've left their company and they have a 401k and they're moving it to an IRA. They've got...
So that talks about a situation, right?
Situational. So they're married, they get divorced, there's money in motion. Somebody dies, the money is in motion.
So can I challenge you?
Yeah.
So what I would challenge you, the question is money in motion and how that is situational about compelling people in transition to do something with that money, right? So the question is, how do you take that money in motion and make it so that they think of you associated with that?
That's where I try to keep my brand always at the top of the
And so that's what you got to do, is you figure out how do you tie or marry the impression of the brand with that tagline. Like, just do it. Money in motion. How it all works together so you're the first one they think of when that happens, right? All right, I'm going to move on. Number 5, create great brand experiences. All right? We all have to do this. We all have to create great brand experiences. A brand is not a product or a promise or a feeling. It is the sum of all experiences you have with a company. All right? That is so true. But people think it's logos, it's websites, it's taglines, it's commercials. It's not, it's everything. Here's a great commercial. I will show you a commercial about an experience.
It's a great day here at Zappos. How may I help you?
I received the most beautiful dress this morning.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, it's gorgeous. My problem is I don't know who it's from.
Okay, let me take a look here.
Okay. Does this happen a lot?
No, not really. Who do you think it's from?
Is it from Eddie?
No.
Okay. Daryl? He's
No.
like stalking me. Okay. Is it from Jesse?
Yes.
Ah! Rachel, it's from Jesse! Oh my gosh, she's so hot.
Did you see their tagline?
Free shipping both ways?
No. Powered by service. Guess who's the #1 website or e-commerce site on the internet? For what? Service. Because they want to provide great brand experiences. This commercial's about, is it about shoes? Did they mention shoes whatsoever in this entire commercial? No. What are they talking about? An experience. They're talking about an experience. She got a present, not even shoes, and she wanted to know who sent her a present. It's about an experience. We all have to understand what kind of experience we want our customers to have with us, whether you're selling a product, whether you're providing a service, whether you're providing a technology, where you're providing, whatever you provide, you have to figure out how you're going to provide that experience, how you're going to be known for that experience, and how do we effectively communicate what that experience is going to look like. All right? So how can you survey your customers and make sure that you're winning them over and you're providing the type of experience that you say you're going to provide in the beginning? Because what happens when you figure out the space, you're going to carve out a niche, you're going to develop a value proposition that's going to communicate what type of customer, what type of company you want to be. You're going to put into a value promise. and then you're going to communicate that value promise in some sort of campaign, targeted campaign towards your ideal target customers. And then once they do business with you, you have to figure out whether you're living up and fulfilling that value promise that you communicated at the very beginning. And then if you're doing that, how are you going to make sure, how are you going to survey your customers? How are you going to make sure that you're doing that, you're doing a great job of doing that? How many of you all provide that survey? How do you survey your customers to make sure you're providing a great experience?
So what was number 5? I didn't see the big
Create great brand experiences.
Create what?
Great brand experiences. The question was, number 5, what was it? It's create great brand experiences. And I don't care what we do, we all have to create great brand experiences. Question?
How should I have known that Zappos had anything to do with shoes?
Would you know?
I wouldn't know. I've heard of Zappos, but I have no clue what they do.
Well, I would bet you that you're not their ideal target customer.
Women is their ideal target customer.
Is it women's shoes?
Yes.
No, it's not just women's shoes in general.
Teenagers too. My first experience is when my kids bought, athletic shoes.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's wasted bandwidth on me then.
They were one of the fastest growing e-tailers on the marketplace, and they had just done a recent shift, going from just shoes to now they're powered by service, and they sell you brands now. They're selling you.
But it's really not their advertising is done, it's their service, and that generates word of mouth.
That's correct.
But I saw the version and I had no clue how I would intersect with that service. That's what I'm.
So if you were online shopping for shoes, you would know them. Because Zappos is very big in the internet. They're the #1 e-tailer when it comes to shoes. In fact, I think they're #1 shoe retailer now, I believe.
I hear them talk about CNBC, but I don't know what they do.
That's exactly what they do. They used to be an online e-tailer of shoes, but now they actually provide great brand experiences, selling you whatever brands you happen to want. Shoes was the first category, but now they're into clothing, kitchenware, anything with any brands. You can buy it through Zappos nowadays.
Amazon's worried.
Amazon, actually, no. Amazon bought them because they perceived them to be a threat. That was a very shrewd move, right? So, all right, anything else on that one?
Well, I just wondered if for small businesses, a lot of us use SurveyMonkey.
Yep. So the question was, do small business use SurveyMonkey?
Do you know another one that's the one?
I would say if you like it, do it. That we use SurveyMonkey ourselves. It's a great tool. It's simple to use. It's very cost effective. You get great results in a timely fashion. It's a great tool for testing customer service.
So all of mine, that when you're using that you ask like 4 to 6 questions, more. Do you have a comment?
I think you could ask up to 10.
10, yeah.
Yeah. What the question is?
How much time are you asking of your customer?
If you can ask them for 5 to 10 minutes a time. We do one where it's 10. We've done longer, but we incentivize them in some way, shape, and form.
Yeah. And are they always multiple choice questions?
Pretty much, most of the time. The simpler it is, the more response you're going to get, right? And if you're answering 10 questions and you've got, 3, 4, 5 different answers, there could be some variable, if you word the questions right, you could get some very valuable information back from the surveys they get. And if you design it all around the experience and how can you make it a better experience, and then if you get some negative feedback, you're going to want to find out or figure out, can I ask them more questions on how I can make sure it's a better experience next time? That's what we do. But I think it works really well. I know a ton of people use SurveyMonkey. It's an easy tool. All right, secret number 6, spread the word and make it happen. Okay, and you all as brand champions, not only owning the brand, but you have to be the ones to own the brand, own spreading it, and making it happen. Some people want it to happen, some people wish it would happen, others make it happen. Michael Jordan. And the same thing can be said true of brand champions and companies that are winners and companies that are losers. And all the winning companies, they have someone at the helm that wants to win and be better than anybody else. All right, let me give you an example. Do you guys know what the #1 fastest growing sport of the world is? This is a clue, by the way. MMA, or mixed martial arts, aka the UFC. Does anybody know their story? Dana White, who was the founder of the UFC, had $44 million in debt when he took it over. All right? At the time, John McCain was trying to outlaw mixed martial arts in Congress, saying that was the equivalent of human cockfighting. All right? Well, you know what though? You know what they did though? They did this little tap out thing when you're in a submission, and you want to be something, you could tap out, tap the guy, and you can get out, and you're done, and the match is over, and you lose. So they've implemented that. They listened to the audience, they've listened to the critics. He went online, went around the country, went around the United States. He engaged with his ideal customers. He actually tweeted them, connected with on social media. He actually went to Washington, talk about humanity, to talk about providing the tap out thing so they can, make it more humane. He actually engaged with his people on social media, tweets with them about upcoming matches, gives away tickets. He has his athletes participate, engage with their customers like nobody else. And guess what happened? He took it single-handedly, a mission to spread the word, communicate the word, be an evangelist for the UFC, whether you like it or not. Guess what's a multi-billion-dollar firm now? The UFC. So they went from a negative of $44 million to a positive of a couple $2 billion in that period of time, and one of the fastest growing sports in the world, because you had a brand champion to help driving that message, owned the success of the brand and the company, and took personal responsibility for it and made it happen.
Is that him? Or is that
No, that's one of the athletes.
I was going to say.
And you have to figure out how you're going to connect with your target markets, right? You have to figure out what your database is. What are the mediums you're going to use along the way to connect with them? Anybody know how many times you have to touch a prospect so they become and make a decision about doing with you? We got 5, we got 7, we got 8. Statistics say that it's between 7 and 15 times you have to touch them so they can build up top-of-mind awareness and have enough information to be able to make a purchasing decision to do business with you. So you have to figure out who your targets are. Do you have them in a database? I don't care whether you're business to business or going after consumers. Big data these days is where it's all going, especially with the advent of everything online. You need to know who your target customers are and how and what the most effective mediums are to reach them. And then you have to develop a message that appeals to them. And then you have to figure out what are going to be the most things that you can afford to do, put in your budget, and that you could effectively execute. And when you touch them 7 to 15 times, guess what happens? Magic happens. Guess how many times most businesses give up after? 2 to 3. And every time 4 on, exponentially, the results of getting a return on that investment, on that touch, become greater and greater and greater. Because most people give up after 2 to 3. So it's our job to figure out not only who our targets are, but how we're going to reach them, how we're going to own making it happen, how we're going to spread the word. So here's some practical ideas. You got to know what it's going to take to reach your goals and objectives. You have to figure out your pipeline. If you want to be like a $10 million business, you have to figure out what my pipeline has to look like in order to generate $10 million worth of business. And you have to do the math backwards up the pipeline, and it's a mathematical formula. You have to implement a repeatable marketing and sales process like I just showed you. Okay? You have to know the numbers, and when I say the know numbers, you have to figure out, okay, I'm going to do $10 million a year in business. That means I have to propose $20 million. That means I have to have prospective business of $200 million. And you have to just work the funnel back upwards, and you have to know exactly what your ratios are and what your numbers are. And you have to know them, and then you can figure out how you're going to cheat them. And what I mean by cheating them is you figure out a particular medium or a particular message or a particular creative tool that connects with your customers and compels them to take action. You have to consistently execute, and you have to track and measure your progress on a regular basis to make sure it's working and the numbers are working in your favor. Questions on that? So how are you going to spread the word, and how are you personally as brand champions going to make it happen? That's the question. Everybody's quiet now. Everybody was lively until I asked them how they're going to personally drive it and own it. This is what spreads the winners from the losers, right? The question is, one of your goals is to do a lot of joint ventures. List building. I agree with you. Do you know where almost every single company falls down? Number 4. Number 4 here. Consistently executing. Right? Anybody know who John McKay is? Former coach of UFC, went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He asked about how well his offensive line executed the game plan. And he said, I'm all in favor of their execution. And most companies, though, do not execute. And you wonder why us as business leaders get so frustrated? Because it's about execution. And very few companies are able to execute. And when they don't execute, they don't have enough big enough, large enough database, and they're not touching them enough times, and they're not generating enough leads to produce enough interaction or client engagements. There's no way you can win. So the key is we all have to get in front of enough people enough times to cheat the numbers and make them work in our favor. You know, I think that's true, but the question was, is one of the ways most people connect on social media. I think that's true to an extent. But you have to, let's go back one slide. That's why I say in here, you have to know what's going to reach, but do you have the repeatable and scalable process? Social media could be one medium to touch them, but it can't be the only one. It's the same thing. I get questions every single time about email. I go, well, if that's your only marketing medium, you might as well just stop doing it. But if you engage the email with a call, with a social media, with networking and all the other tactics, and you put together multiple creative mediums and creative touches and have a compelling message, you have to figure out the magical formula that works. Yes?
Is there a correlation between the budget and the media? How many media would you touch?
No. Nowadays, with online, with social media, with YouTube, and with all these other online mediums, you can do some really cool, really creative things that any and every one of us can do. We all can. I used to think, and it used to be very true, that budget was very limiting, but nowadays with online marketing, you can do some very effective things for a very limited amount of money. Used to be, though, if you didn't have a big budget and you weren't on television, you had a very hard time getting your word out. That is not reality anymore. So we all compete. The internet's it's a great, levels the playing field for all of us. All right, secret number 7. Evolve, grow, and harvest. Okay? We as brand champions have to evolve, grow, and harvest. In fact, Walt Disney says, Disneyland will never be completed. It will continue to grow as long as there's imagination left in the world. And we as brand champions have to have that same mindset when it comes to evolving our company, evolving our service or product. We can never stay stagnant. We have to continue to understand what the ideal customers that we want to be doing business with, what they want, what they need, and how we're going to continue to evolve our product or our service to make it appeal to them. We just can't do one product or one service and say, boom, that's going to be it forever. I don't know a single company that it works that way. It doesn't. It never does. We have to figure out how we're going to continue to evolve and grow. Take Starbucks, for instance. May not like Starbucks, but they had a problem several years ago. Does anybody know what that problem was?
They were losing market share.
Why did they lose market share?
I thought it was because there were more competitors, but I'm not really sure.
Well,
More local business competitors.
that could be true, but their number one reason is Howard Schultz, their CEO, or their brand champion. What did he decide to do? He retired, right? What happened to the company when he retired? Their vision and their passion and the excitement within the organization waned. They were growing, but for whatever reason, they lost their customers. They lost connection with their customers. The organization lost their same passion. They lost their vision. They lost their way. All right? In fact, if you went to the Starbucks stores, I forget what year this was, but they went to the store, they closed every single store on the same exact afternoon because they realized they had lost connection with their customers. They closed every store to retrain their baristas on how to create the great brand experience, how to stay connected and get reconnected with their customers. They invested tens of millions of dollars by closing every single store on an afternoon and an evening. Are you kidding me? That's crazy. But they did. They closed every single store. They put up a note in the window and they're saying, we're taking the afternoon off to train our baristas how to perfect a perfect cup of espresso. More importantly, how to re-engage and create that perfect brand experience.
After Schultz returned or before?
After Schultz returned. This is one of the very first things he did. In fact, if you hear him talk, if you read the book, I forget what the book is off the top of my head, but if you read the book, he talks about how they did this and how they went so far to automate the process that they eliminated the sounds and the smells and part of what made such a great experience. In fact, when they remodel stores, they're putting in some of the old machines to create the same experience they used to have, which is the sounds and the smells, and creating a great experience the customer used to know. And do you know what their new space is now? What they want to be known as now? They want to be known as the in-between place. They don't want to be known as a coffee company. They want to be known the in-between place between home and work. And work and home, that you stop by and you have a meeting where you enjoy a cup of coffee. They want to be the in-between place, providing a great brand experience, being the in-between place. And because of that, because they were able to reconnect with their customers, they were able to evolve, they were able to grow, they became the #1 company on social media, right? Oh, yeah. So here's some of the things I want you to take into consideration is having a brand and being a brand champion and being able to evolve and grow and be the best in your space allows you to charge a premium for your product or service, allows you to position yourself as a leader in your space, allows you to own market share, allows you to be the true innovator of your space, allows you to attract and attain great employees, as well as sell your company, retire, or do whatever the goals you set out to do at the very beginning are, as long as you figure out you as brand champion have to be the one to make these things happen, and then all the other things will fall into place. So how will you ensure that your brand stays relevant, and how will you stay ahead of the pack? Now you guys are all in deep with that.
Listening to your customers.
Listening to your customers. There you go. That's great. Knowing what your competition doing is exactly right. Providing a great brand experience, you're absolutely right. So you asked a great question about how you track and measure. One of the things that we're finalizing right now is we're developing a platform, but there's lots of different things you could do. Is how do you track and measure the ROI of your touches? You can use Google Analytics that people do for SEO. You can actually, there's different social media tracking tools as well too. There's lots of other tools out there you could figure out and track the effectiveness of your branding and marketing spend. Okay? And you have to be able to track it and quantify it, making sure that you're delivering a great experience and providing the results that you want to achieve. And when you're able to do that, you're able to connect with your customers and provide a great experience and achieve your bigger picture goals and objectives. So, all right, that's my presentation. I think I'm within 1 or 2 minutes of being on time here. That doesn't happen very often, but I got questions. I have more than enough time for questions and answer if you want questions. And if you got anything else you want to ask me, I am here to answer the questions. Yeah. Your name again is?
Russell.
Russell.
So I'm a commercial photographer. It's my day job. My real passion is to develop a whole lifestyle brand around acronyms, like myth, make yourself the hero, and all these.
Sure.
And my heart. So unlike, most things where people go and they Google, so this is a whole new thing. So
a whole new category.
Yeah. So if you're starting, people aren't going to buy shoes or coffee or whatever. So it's, I just thought it'd be interesting to get your comment on,
how you sell a new category.
How do you, because it's a nobody looks at
no, just give me the whole package.
Nobody looks at.
So the trick on anything, right? New and innovative, new product, new service, you have to figure out what's compelling. What are the value points of this? What is it fun? Is it entertaining? Is it, how can you use it personally? How can you use it professionally? What is it about the message? How can you craft that message to make it fun and appealing, right? And so that's the questions I'd ask is how do you actually package that? How do you put it together in an informational video? Can you create an informational video? Can you make it fun and educational? And you're a photographer, right? You could do stills, a series of stills. And in fact, if you've seen those whiteboard lit up videos, a lot of them are composed of stills as well as people writing it. And it's all conceptual. So how do you package it, what it is conceptually, and sell the concept that way? And then have some people having fun with it and doing something fun and cool with it.
Did you see the title?
Yeah.
What's it say?
Isle of View.
I love you too.
Yeah, it's that risk reward or risk reversal. You have to figure out it's either this or this, and how do you create, fear's a great sales tool, right? We were talking about that earlier. Fear could be a great sales tool, or it could be huge success.
The risk reversal being the seller takes the risk in
right.
the initial transaction.
Absolutely. But that just moves that one element. In order for them, you still have to find out that's going to take away the fear, but you still have to compel them. You have to solve a problem, typically.
Or to live with the experience.
You have to solve a problem or to create an experience that's desirable enough to make them think that they're going to become the world's most interesting man, or that you're going to go to the in-between place to buy a great cup of coffee, whatever. It's going to be solving a problem or creating and packaging an experience and making them a perception that if they choose to do business with, they're going to get to be the most interesting man. They're going to have a great experience. They're going to have a great cup of coffee, whatever. You still have to answer the root cause. It's like that neuromarketing. You have to have that primal, you have to solve a primal need that they have in order for them to take action.
And the beer has to taste good.
You know what, surprisingly enough, not necessarily, right? There's some bad products out there, bad services that have done a great job of marketing themselves. It's about all perception. It's way more powerful than reality sometimes. Over the long haul, the value still has to be there, right? What other questions? Anybody?